Online Pro is back with Mock Draft 3.0, and I've gone over this 2 times before, but there is a bit of a shakeup at the top. I've been reading a lot more of the reports. As we get to Super Bowl week, a lot more information has came in, so there's a little bit more of a clear picture on what's going to be going on, who's going to be being picked, and as I start this up right here, there is a difference with the first overall pick. And I've been seeing on a lot of the mocks that almost every single mock that I've seen has Tennessee, even though they have quarterback needs that they need to address, fading Cam Ward and going with Travis Hunter. And, I somewhat understand it. If Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders both have a really bad combine or really bad pro days, I could easily see this happening. Neither one of the prospects is anything that is generational. Neither one of the prospects is anything that would be a sure thing. Travis Hunter will be a sure thing in the NFL pretty much. I think that you could definitely play him either way. He's got, you could just look at the tape doesn't lie. What he's been able to do, the athleticism doesn't lie. He's a really solid player. And I think he's going to hit 95% of the time. He's going to be a hit. So I don't mind them making this move. Then if you go to Cleveland at pick number 2, Abdul Carter's sitting right there. Myles Garrett's going to go. They're going to get rid of Myles Garrett. And why not? At this point, Abdul Carter, in some people's analysis, has been rated as the top guy in this draft. People are really high on Abdul Carter. He had a really good year at Penn State. He has been a solid player, and they're losing Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett went on a press conference at the Super Bowl, and I think he was on the Rick Eisen show or something. He pretty much stated he will not be in Cleveland next year. So there's no saving that relationship at this point. I see if it falls like this, I see them going with Abdul Carter. Then you go to the Giants, and if you're looking at these 2 quarterbacks, it's too early to say which one is going to come out as the first one chosen. Because like I said, there's still the combine, there's still all these interviews that they're going to have to go through. So there's a lot of processes left to be done at this point. And I think at this point, if you're the Giants, that you're probably, right now I'll say Cam Ward. I could see them liking Shedeur Sanders. It's really a timetable thing at this point. Then moving on to the 4th pick, they got Will Campbell sitting right there. They're going to want to protect Drake May. It makes sense to get him a tackle that's going to be able to be sustainable for pretty much the entire run of Drake May. So I like this pick for the Patriots. He's definitely the best tackle in this draft so far. So I like him going to New England in this spot. Then you go to Jacksonville right here, and I could see a Mason Graham pick, improve their defense a little bit. Mason Graham had a tremendous career at Michigan, played really well against the national championship team, Ohio State, played really well in that game. He's going to be a force in the league. I like him going 5 to Jacksonville. Then if you're the Raiders, if this scenario works out for them, they're going to be really happy with taking Shedeur Sanders at this pick. They need a quarterback badly. They've needed one for a long time. I like them going with Shedeur Sanders here. A player who I think his game can definitely translate to the NFL. I think he could be a long-time starter in the league. I really do. I'm not one of those people that's super low on his game. I don't think he has a super high ceiling, but I think he could have he could be a sustainable, good starter in the NFL for sure. And that's what the Raiders need right now. And I like them to take him if he's available in the spot. Then you go to the Giants. I think that Kelvin Banks is the right pick. You just want to continue to build that O-line. You don't know who the guy is going to be a quarterback yet, but you can't go wrong with building that O-line. If they do bring back Aaron Rodgers, he's going to need absolute protection. He's going to need to be in full form. Banks is a really solid tackle, big guy, and I think that he's going to work out for him. Then you go to Carolina here at 8, and I think you got to get McMillan in this spot. If you want to roll with Bryce Young, get him the proper help, get him the proper weapon. McMillan, he's got amazing tape. He had a tremendous year. He didn't have a lot of good team success, but as we've seen before in many, many numerous cases, that usually doesn't matter for NFL players, how good their team was. But I think this is a tremendous wide receiver, top of the draft. And Carolina, if you want to make things work with Bryce Young, you definitely need O-line protection, but you definitely need proper skill guys to get him for him to get the ball to. Then you go to New Orleans. I like Will Johnson here. Continue to build the defense. Obviously, they got rid of Marshawn Lattimore. You have a hole there. You fill it with Will Johnson. I think he's going to be a really good player in the NFL. Now you're at 10, Chicago, and Ben Johnson is the guy, but just looking at the way that the draft is shaking up and what they've done before, I think they will go defense in this spot. If you have a guy like Mikael Williams sitting there at 10 and you're going to have a shot to be gifted that, the defense is already really strong, but if you're able to add a good edge, you might as well with that pick. Then you go to the 49ers here, and they can go a lot of different ways. I like Walker to go here in this spot. You know, they have Joey Bosa, and they have pieces. They need to have this is a team that needs to have a really, really good draft if they want to bounce back. They need to get younger. They need to get younger within the 49ers if they want to keep their window alive. And they have a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. It's just the facts of it. And if you can get more depth, you can't go wrong with Walker in this spot. Dallas, I did in the last mock. I think they're going to get Ashton Jeanty. I don't love the pick. And I explained on the other one why I don't love the pick. I don't love it because I've seen his tape. He's an incredible running back, incredible player. Yards after contact, one of the best prospects I've seen in years. Ridiculous. I don't know about the sustainability of it. And do we really think that Dallas is a team that's going to compete to win the Super Bowl within the next 2 to 3 years? Because that could be his window. He's a 5'8" running back. You never know what's going to happen with injuries. He's small. I think he's going to tear it up the first couple of years. But if he gets a serious injury, if something happens with that size, with the workload that he's going to do, and with what he specializes in, which is yards after contact, I just don't know. I think the perfect landing spot for Jeanty would be to go to a contender, a team where they can utilize him at his fullest for a good 3-year run and get maybe a title out of it. But I don't like him going to Dallas. I think they're going to pick him. If you go to Miami, Malachi Stark's in there. They got to improve defensively. This is a home run pick for him. Malachi Stark's really solid safety. I like this pick here. The Colts, I could see the Colts going a lot of different directions. They don't have a lot of necessary. They have a lot of needs that they have to attend to. One of the key positions that they don't have is tight end. Tyler Warren, if he's sitting here, he's a do-it-all guy, tremendous player. Reminds me a little bit of Brock Bowers, not quite the prospect, but a really solid player. I think he makes the Colts better for sure. Then you go to Atlanta, and they definitely could go edge in this spot. You see on that defense, they already have pieces. They have Judon. They have a lot of things going on. I think they go tackle here. I think you get Josh Simmons. The more that I look at it, they have a young quarterback in Michael Penix. If they're going to roll with him for the future, you want him to be protected, and you want him to be protected well. Go with Simmons here. He was incredible before he got injured in that game against Oregon. He was doing really well. Obviously, wasn't with the Buckeyes during their national championship run. But what he did before, this is a really solid tackle. I think it's a steal at this pick. I think if he plays out during the national championship run for Ohio State, we could be talking top 10 for a player of this caliber. So I think he will be a steal, considering obviously he heals from the injury properly, which at his age, I definitely think he will. But if you're going to roll with Michael Penix, a young quarterback, get him the proper protection. Your defense it needs help, but I think this is more important right now. Arizona is another team where I'd like to see them go defense. James Pierce Jr., really, really solid defensive player. He had a great season for Tennessee. He's going to be a good player in the NFL, and I think Arizona, they got to improve on that defense. If you get a right, we've seen it before. If you get the right edge guy, they're very valuable to teams and team success. So that's a pick right there. Cincinnati, you're going best defensive player available. You're going to go with Stewart at the edge from Texas A&M. Now, they need a lot of help on defense, but at the same time, I like this pick. They're going to have a really solid defensive draft. We know that. That's the information we know about Cincinnati. I do not expect them to go offense here at all, and I like them to take Stewart in this spot right here. Seattle, just looking at their needs, they need all kinds of things. I think Booker is one of the best interior linemen in this draft right now, and I think he's the guy you got to go with. I think he's definitely the guy you got to go with, and try to support the quarterback more and maybe work on building the run game with Kenneth Walker. I like Booker in this spot. Now you go to Tampa Bay, and I think there's all kinds of things you can do. But, you see Kenneth Grant sitting right here. D-line, a need to address for Tampa. They have a solid defense already, but if they can improve it, I think Grant is one of the better players in this draft. So, I think that would be a solid pick for them. If you look at Denver, I like them to go tight end in this. Loveland, he was the best offensive player on Michigan the entire time. He is a really, really solid tight end, and I think he'll be good. He's not in the Brock Bowers class. He's not in the Tyler Warren class either, but he's a step right below. He could have a great career in the NFL, and it seems like a Sean Payton kind of thing to get another offensive weapon to help out Bo Nix. So I like that to go there. And then Pittsburgh, there's been a lot of theories about them getting Emeka Egbuka. Obviously, they need receiver help. They need to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback as well, but it will help shoulder the load if you bring in another receiver. Now, Emeka Egbuka is one of the most underrated players in this draft. He had a tremendous career at Ohio State, second all-time in receiving yards at Ohio State. You think of all those really good receivers that they've had, second all-time in receiving yards, really solid player. I think he's going to have a similar path to a player from Ohio State like Terry McLaurin that didn't get a lot of hype at Ohio State, was still very hyped up, but didn't get a lot of credit for everything. And I think he's going to be amazing in the NFL. I think he's going to be a true number one at some point. He's a really, really solid receiver, and he can be plugged into a lot of different schemes, and I think he could really work anywhere. So that's why, if I'm Pittsburgh, this would be a slam dunk pick if he's able to follow them at 21. 22, it is the Chargers and Harbaugh, and I think you go receiver, and Luther Burton, he's a guy that is highly mocked. They need to put more receivers around Justin Herbert. You saw it himself in the playoff game. He's throwing for his life, just can't find open guys. This is the right pick in this spot. You need to improve at the receiver position. I can see them going O-line as well, but if you look at tackle, they already have a really good tackle in Rashawn Slater. I think that you go wide receiver here if you're the Chargers. Then you go to Green Bay, and they do need an edge. They need a defensive player on the edge. There's rumors that they could trade for Myles Garrett. I think that would instantly make them one of the, without question, favorites to win the NFC if they were able to land Myles Garrett for a sizable deal that didn't break up a lot of the team. But assuming they don't do that, I like Scorton from Texas A&M. They need a solid edge player. This is a guy that could fill the gap there. Then you go to Minnesota, and they have a lot of different needs. I think they would go corner here. Benjamin Morrison, really solid player out of Notre Dame. It fills one of their needs. It improves their defense a little bit more. I think this is a proper pick. Now, if you're Houston, definitely want to go tackle. That O-line started to crumble towards the end of the year. They need more protection for C.J. Stroud. There were games where he was just running for his life, and they're just going to need more protection if that's going to be sustainable. So you got to go tackle at this point. Rams, they're in a position where also they can do all kinds of things. We really don't know how much they're going to shake up the roster. They develop corners really well. The guys that they've brought in before have developed really quickly, and they were kind of later picks. And Barron, a guy from Texas that is going to come in, plug in, be able to play really good football right off the bat, so I like him going to the Rams at 26. Go to Baltimore here, and they also, this is a team that needs defensive help. And Revel Jr., the tape usually doesn't lie when looked at, and he's got really good tape. I don't love the competition that he played against, but we've seen from like a Quinton Mitchell, from a lot of other players in the league, that sometimes competition at positions like corner don't really matter. Now, when it comes down to competition as a receiver, maybe a running back, quarterback, it's a little bit different because you're playing, you're going to want to see some, like especially if you're a quarterback, you're going to want a quarterback usually that plays against a high level of competition. The team doesn't have to have great success, but if you're out there and but in a case for Revel Jr. here, I mean, playing cornerback, from the tape I've seen, he could be really solid. It's a need for Baltimore. I like them to go with him at 27. Then you go to Detroit. I like Jack Sawyer to go there. Build all the depth that you can build at this point. And I think that would be just a big factor for them. And I think that can definitely work to make them a better team all the way through and through. So I like Jack Sawyer going to Detroit. Washington is a team where I expect them to go line. Once again, you got a young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. If you want to have long sustained success with him and make sure that he doesn't get injured, you're going to want to go tackle Connerly Jr., really solid player out of Oregon that I think is getting slept on a little bit at the tackle position. I like this pick right here. If you're Buffalo, got to improve on defense. You got Walter Nolan sitting right here. That's going to be a good pick. Just get an interior guy that can put some pressure on people. I like him to go to Buffalo. Philadelphia is a team that's going to be drafting for depth, but I think they continue to build. They have no needs on offense, no needs on the offensive side. So get a guy like Mike Green from Marshall. Continue to build as a team. Continue to build your defense. Just swap in more depth. I like this pick there. And then you're going to Kansas City, another team that has developed on defense really well. And I think you go with Tyleik Williams in this spot, a player that I think is just too good to fall out of the first round. He was really intangible for Ohio State when they went on that national championship run. Really good D-line player that has just been able to cause havoc for opposing offenses that he has went up against. And that's going to do it for 3.0, the mock draft. Go in the comments. Let me know what you think. And I'll be back to do the fourth one after the Super Bowl.